They always said no one should step inside Greystone Asylum after dark. The building had been abandoned for nearly 50 years, left to rot at the edge of town like a wound no one wanted to remember. People whispered stories about it, about the patients who had never left, about the doctors who experimented in the name of progress, and about the screams that sometimes echoed through the trees late at night, long after the building should have gone silent. But Sarah didn't believe in ghost stories. She thought they were just tales made to scare kids. She believed in facts, in evidence. That's why, when her friends dared her to spend one night inside the asylum, alone, she agreed without hesitation. 3 hours. All she had to do was record some footage, prove nothing happened, and walk out a few bucks richer. It sounded simple. It wasn't. The night she went in, the sky was almost pitch black. Thick clouds smothered the moon, and the wind whipped through the empty fields around the asylum. The rusted gate let out a screech when she pushed it open, almost like a warning. She laughed it off, but the sound stayed in her head long after she stepped inside. The first thing that hit her was the smell. Rot. Mold. Decay. The air was heavy, almost wet. Each breath tasted like old, forgotten death. She clicked on her flashlight, the beam slicing through the thick darkness. The asylum was worse than she expected. Paint peeled from the walls in huge sheets, doors hung crooked on broken hinges, and shattered glass crunched under her boots with every step. Still, she moved forward. Sarah wandered through the halls, recording everything on her phone. Every so often, her light would catch on something strange, a child's toy lying in the corner of a room, a wheelchair toppled on its side, rusty chains bolted to the wall. Each find made her feel a little more uneasy, but she forced herself to keep going. Then, she heard it. A whisper. So faint she almost missed it. Sarah. She spun around so fast her flashlight shook, throwing wild shadows against the walls. Nothing there. No one. She told herself it was the wind, maybe the building settling. But when she turned back to the hall ahead of her, it was different. It was wrong. The corridor that had once been straight now twisted slightly, leading her somewhere she didn't recognize. The doorway she passed looked newer. Untouched. As if the past was seeping into the present around her. And then she saw the door. It stood at the very end of the hallway, pure white, clean, as if it had been placed there yesterday. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to leave it alone. But curiosity won. She approached, hand trembling, and pushed the door open. Inside was a small room lit by a single, flickering bulb. Old medical equipment lined the walls, machines Sarah couldn't even name, covered in dust and grime. Photographs littered a table in the center of the room. She picked one up. The face stared back at her, a man, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide with a terror so raw that Sarah dropped the photo without realizing it. Every photo was the same. Different faces, but the same expression, agony. The door slammed shut behind her. She screamed, spun around, tried to yank it open. Locked. No way out. Her flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into suffocating darkness. That's when the voices started. At first, just a whisper. A chorus of voices, all saying her name. Then louder. Closer. The air around her grew cold. Ice cold. She could feel hands brushing against her arms, her hair, her back. Thin fingers clutching, pulling. She stumbled backward, crashing into the table, sending photographs fluttering around her like dying leaves. Somewhere in the darkness, a voice, clearer than the others, spoke directly into her ear. You shouldn't have come here. She bolted, running blind, crashing into walls, tripping over debris. She didn't care where she was going, she just needed to get out. But every hallway led her back to that door. Every corridor twisted and shifted behind her, trapping her in an endless loop. Time lost meaning. Minutes, maybe hours passed, she couldn't tell. Her phone battery died long ago. All she knew was fear. All she heard were the voices, growing louder, more angry. Until finally, silence. She collapsed against a wall, sobbing, drained of every ounce of strength. The darkness wrapped around her like a shroud. And somewhere, deep within it, something smiled. Sarah was never seen again. Some say if you stand outside Greystone Asylum on a cold night and listen carefully, you can still hear her. Screaming, begging, pounding on the walls that no longer exist. Trapped forever in the place she thought she could conquer. The asylum doesn't forget. And it never lets you leave.